Hi, everybody. It's Tay. I'm back again with Jim from Age Safe Canada. He's here today to kind of give us the inside scoop on what Age Safe is. We're going to talk about safety within the workplace and within, the home as a working PSW and home care and the importance that that plays. So I'm really excited to have you here, Jim. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. And why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself to get things going?
For sure. Yeah, I'm excited about being here as well. I think your audience is kind of who we want to talk to when we talk about Age Safe and the Age Safe certification. But my background, I've been in home care from a different perspective for 32 years. I've basically done anything from what aging in place was 30 years ago when nobody called it aging in place to where it is now, where everyone kind of knows what the terminology is basically those clients that you're dealing with day to day wanting to remain at home. So I've been doing that for a number of years, and the I guess why I've stuck with it for so long is because it's a very evolutionary industry. It really wasn't an industry when I started. It's now becoming an industry, and it's exciting innovations, whether it's technology or products or services, even the way we communicate as we're doing today, and how your PSW teams communicate with one another and get things done for people. It is exciting. So that's why I'm sticking to it. Age Safe came along through the United States, through Age Safe America, right in the midst of COVID, when we started some other projects, and they reached out to me directly and said we need a Canadian presence in Canada to form Age Safe Canada. So through the Bay Area Health Trust, which is out of Hamilton Health Sciences, we licensed the name and the brand and made it Canadian. And we have a board of advisors who have been like me a number of years in the industry, and we basically tweaked the curriculum to better serve a Canadian audience. Statistics and stuff like that were put in and kind of reshot it. So in a nutshell, Age Safe, this senior home safety specialist curriculum that somebody who takes the course, which is all online, takes about 5 to 6 hours to complete, is a 17 module basically safety check of someone's home. And it's obviously a senior's home, so somebody either living with their spouse, with a family even, or on their own. It is basically cueing you to look for things that are potential risks or can make their life more comfortable, or to avoid risks altogether. When we talk about uh, uh, falls prevention is a big module, obviously. So I think when you and I spoke, when we met, Ty, I used the term CPR for the home. It's like the CPR course for the home itself, and I know we'll get into a little bit more, but that's the nutshell of the course itself. When somebody graduates or has completed the course, they can call themselves a senior home safety specialist. Whether or not there's other professions that take it aside from PSW or care workers. There's lots. It's basically built for anyone who deals with a senior in their home on their own. And our mandate, or not our mandate, but our vision of that is basically the more eyes or the more people involved in somebody's home, the more eyes can pick up on cues that might be a potential risk. So the more the better. Somebody can take it and do an actual formal audit and a safety checklist, or they can just have that base knowledge to pick up those cues. And sorry, I'm talking too much here, but say
Not
what
at all.
the way I see it too is the PSW is probably visiting the client more than some of the other professions that we see, and those being occupational therapists. Maybe physiotherapists visit more regularly. Certainly real estate agents who have taken it are probably there at the beginning because the home is being looked to being downsized or sold, and they move into a new home. So it's not necessarily traditionally somebody staying in the home that they're at. They might be downsized into a home, so real estate gets involved there. You still need to ensure that they're moving into a safe place. So it, we really think that the support workers, whether acronym is being used across the country, are a very important part of not just what you do in your daily tasks, but also again the eyes and ears of safety in general. Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. Sorry. So what I was saying, so with that too, as a PSW, you can kind of utilize your scope to address safety issues within the home. But I was kind of wondering too, like, can you make recommendations and what does that look like then? So if you do see sort of like a red flag, how do you kind of address that? Is that kind of broken down in the course module or how does that work?
Yeah, really, the course doesn't go beyond re- really identifying the situation. Making recommendations should be towards either the employer of, if you're working for somebody as a PSW, or the family in general, or some other professional involved, i.e., an occupational therapist. You don't want to be in the position of making recommendations for a person that kind of crosses over into healthcare or diagnoses or structural changes to the home. That's really not the mandate of the course. It's really just to really a red flag is a good way that you put it. Um, and it's shocking how many red flags go undetected until is a serious issue. So that's we do talk about communicating with the senior and the family. There's one module on that that allows you to transfer that knowledge or the understanding and try to make it easy, because sometimes what we consider in somebody else's home as a red flag may be there for a reason, maybe a cultural thing, maybe a traditional thing, maybe a family thing, but we might think it's quote dangerous or a risk. It has to be sort of communicated tactfully to the family, to the client, and it's not necessarily again the PSW that has to do that. They just have to make note of it. And I think we're going to bridge into what we consider safe workplace habits as well.
That was going to be one of my next questions too. Like,
Yeah.
could you give us like some examples of what would be a red flag or things that you would look for in your
Okay.
testing?
Well, as you go through the course, I mean, again, falls prevention is probably the longest module that you would take, but there's multiple things. Everyone kind of knows the danger points in a home being the stairs. So, what is the client having difficulty in the stairs? Is there loose handrails? Is there not adequate lighting so they can't see if you, again, if a PSW is helping them up the stairs, but when they're not there, try to think of when you're not there, what is happening. Loose carpets and trip hazards, whether it's it might not be toys in the terms of a senior's home, but there's multiple different things. Pets are since I started doing this course, we had to add a couple little points about little dogs and little cats getting under feet, and how do they look after their pet when you're not there, because though they can trip you up quite easily. Things like so the wet environment, medications not being secured, not being adhered to. If that's part of the parcel, there might be nursing that comes in before or after you, but I would assume that the PSW has an understanding of the regiment of that, whether it's blister packs or pill bottles are put away safely and not lost. So there's those items. There's fire safety items. Is there adequate fire extinguishers, fire alarms that are functioning? I mean, I would assume that somebody has done that, but again, if you're in the home on a regular basis and the fire smoke detector is beeping, then you know that maybe you can help with the battery change, that kind of thing. Um, Maybe I will bridge into what you and I've talked about, and what really came to light to me, as we started this a couple years ago, but even in the last few months, is the consideration that the course was written for the safety of the individual living in that home. But I soon realized, and I think you'll agree and you'll help me out with this messaging, but as a PSW going and visiting homes, there's a significant amount of occupational health and safety guidelines and laws in the country if you were working in an office or a clinic or a hospital. Uh, any safety issue that you can think of has been legislated, has been managed, has been maintained, has been trained for. You're now going out into the world, into somebody's house that you may never, obviously, if it's a new client, you've never met them before. You don't know what you're walking into. So if I took the angle of saying this education for PSW is really for your own self-protection, it sounds a little daunting, but it is your workplace. So if you're going into an unsafe workplace for whatever reason, if there's inadequate fire protection, if there's inadequate electrical or lighting, are you going to fall down the stairs trying to help your client up the stairs? Those get a little bit more involved with some of the regulations and occupational health within WSIB. But again, the home itself could potentially have some risk for you yourself. So, for the effort of this baseline knowledge to have yourself, it's actually giving you a little bit more mindset of self-protection. If that makes sense.
That makes total sense. I mean, I had that myself working in home care for an agency years ago, and you would be in situations where you're, hoarding situations or bugs or cockroaches, like all of these things that you don't even initially, when you walk through the door, even think about, but you're hit with it. And then all of a sudden it's the realization is, oh my goodness, this is my workplace, right? So for me too, like I am 6 feet tall on the dot. So if I can't bend down properly, or I'm twisting my body, trying to help someone get their pants on or anything like that, to try and accommodate the clutter or another safety issue that, again, you never think about until you walk in and you're hit with it, it sucks. Like, for lack of a better word, it sucks. You walk out, your back hurts and you're like, man, like this was not fun for me. So it's kind of nice that this is kind of developing and becoming more of a resource for people. And I think a lot of companies should kind of take note of that as well, because it's a real concern, and it also deters people from the job, like workers. And, you and I discussed this before, kind of the cycle of injury and retention. And maybe you want to dive into that as well, because you broke it down for me really nicely when we were talking, injury,
Remind me, remind me, sure.
like cycle of the injuries, retention, happiness in the workplace, like all of this stuff does kind of correlate to safety in the workplace, because if you're feeling uncomfortable or unsafe, or
Yeah,
you're twisting your body in crazy positions to try and get your job done, like you don't want to go back. Like
yeah,
sometimes you do anyways, right? But like,
yeah.
or you get an injury and you just can't come back.
Well, you end up taking shortcuts, right?
Yeah.
Because your mind's set on getting that task done, because you probably have, a handful of other clients that you have to get to in a certain time. You're watching the clock and you take shortcuts, and shortcuts generally lead to an injury. It may not be something that you notice right away, but like you said, a twisted back or sore shoulders. These are all things that have been identified again in that OC health and safety world that I came from as well. 20 years ago, there was a big push in clinics, hospitals, retirement to have overhead hoists, right? Overhead ceiling lifts. So
Yep.
anywhere in most of the country now, it's commonplace. 20 years ago, it wasn't. I was involved in installing a lot of them, but that was because nursing injuries were such prevalence that the retention of nursing was falling off, and people weren't going to school to become nurses, and that was a serious problem. There was a conscientious movement to put those devices in, and it worked essentially. Lifting and hoisting and pulling, being the number one injury causer, was reduced significantly. So you expand that thought of what you've described to other parts of the house. If part of your job is to make tea or coffee, and the appliances are out of date and unsafe, or there's no power, and like you mentioned, I don't even think we have anything on on insects. So that's actually interesting to consider. Like, it's obviously a symptom of cleanliness, but that in itself, I think we talk about quite a bit, is the state of cleanliness is, again, you're walking in there, and we've certainly gone through 2 to 3 years now of concerned about the air we breathe for whatever we're going to possibly inhale, and if that's going to be make us sick or not. Exasperate that by uncleanly environments, then yeah, it's a significant workplace health risk that we have to identify and say, please have this repaired, reduced, or whatever compromise can be had.
Exactly. I think it was really interesting the way that you kind of related that all together. And I remember us also talking too about how the entrepreneurial PSW could maybe utilize this as like a part of their toolkit to see if this client would be a good match for them. Um, I'm thinking too, like this would be something that would be suitable for the entrepreneurial PSW and not just for, large scale home care agencies and things like that. Would you be in agreement with that or?
Well, I think there's two ways you can look at it. One is how you just described it, where it could be like, if I'm going to only have the capacity to do X amount of clients, then I want to work with in environments that are suitable to me and I feel safe for. So I've got this knowledge. I'll go in, you know, every business has the right to choose their clients. It's not a mandate that you have to sell your services to people you don't want to sell your services to. I've learned this throughout my career and always end up being on the wrong side of a lot of them, where you knew that you shouldn't get involved with some people and you do it anyway, and that has led to a belly full of trouble. So having that little bit of knowledge, having that little bit of knowledge as an entrepreneur can potentially weed out some situations or some problems that may happen. The other way to look at it is it becomes another marketing tool for you with the family or with the senior themselves to say, I do have this extra micro credential that allows me to do a review of your home. And again, whether or not you charge for it or not, or include it in your services, it just potentially gives you a leg up on somebody else coming in or another agency coming in with that client, especially if it's private pay or even in the insured world. You can show it. We are talking to everybody about age safe. It's not inclusive or to PSWs, like I said, but we're talking to agencies and employers, other associations. We want to spread the word, but I think as a St. John's first aid seal is recognizable, we're confident that the age safe seal will be very recognizable very soon. Okay, this person has gone through this training. We understand what it means, and it's for the benefit of not only myself as the client, but as the worker coming in to help me.
I think that's wonderful. I think it's nice that you're paving kind of a way and making safety more of a focus again, not only for the client themselves or the patient themselves, but for the worker themselves too, because it is so often overlooked, like I said before. So it's neat to hear that this is actually a thing that you can just go and learn the modules and have that certification to be able to do that and really kind of remind yourself, is this a workplace that works for me as well? Because that's important for job longevity and all of that other stuff, like we said. So I think that's great. I mean, thank you for speaking on all of this and for kind of educating us on what age safe is. And I appreciate it. And I think our audience will too. I know lots of people are looking to kind of broaden their scope and their education, and this might be a great avenue for them. So thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Oh,
Is
my
there
my
is there anything else you want to leave us with, Jim?
Well,
Or
I was going to say my pleasure speaking with you. As I said at the beginning before we started recording, I do talk for a living, so I apologize if I went rambling on. But I do. Uh, my thoughts are this should be almost mandatory, and if it's not, it should be, whether the employers push it down or, uh, as we talked about, the PSW taking responsibility for their own environment and their own person, whether they're an entrepreneur or not, can certainly benefit for it. The investment's not huge. The time investment or the financial investment is not huge. I think what they'll get out of it is, like we said, a mindset of, okay, at least I have something to go back to refer to, and people, as the seal gets more recognized, will back me up because of things I've seen and done. So
which is
yeah,
important.
no,
And
yeah,
it's like someone
it is
else in your
important.
corner, like to say, hey,
Yeah,
yeah, that isn't safe. Or, you kind of have that ability to make those calls yourself. So it's nice. I think it's great. I'm looking forward to seeing how everything progresses. And like you said, that seal that's going to be created, I really hope we start establishing, that safety is number one for both, again, the client and PSW, and see it flourish from there. So thank you so much for talking today. And you didn't ramble on at all. I thought that was great. I thought it was very
okay, good.
informational. So so
Good,
thank
good,
you
good.
for being here with us today, Jim. And thank you to everybody who's listened today. And if you're interested in Age Safe, I'm sure, Jim, you have a website, right?
It's agesafecanada.ca.
Perfect.
Is it? Yeah, it's .ca.
I'm sure for a Google search
agesafecanada.ca.
is pretty good
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
you'll find us. You'll go on there, you'll read about the course, and then you'll click through. And as soon as you click through, we'll direct you to the learning management software platform where you'll take the course if you're interested in doing it. There's special pricing for PSWs, so the printed price on the website is not the same as what you'll get as a member of Canadian and Ontario Public Personal Sport Worker Association. So keep that in mind. Again, I don't think it's a significant investment. I think it's a well worth it investment, if I do say so myself.
That's great. That's wonderful. So thank you all for listening today, and I'll be back next week with another podcast. Have a great week. Bye.
Thank you.